Hello, everybody. Oh! That's right, Mr. Michael's in a howlin' good mood today because it's story time with Mr. Michael. And today we're gonna be reading The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolfe, as told to John Scieszka, illustrated by Lane Smith. This book is a classic. It's a modern classic. I'm so very excited we're going to get to read it together. And you know why we're going to get to read it? Because this book was a special request. That's right. One of our favorite viewers, Haley, requested this book, and I'm so very happy I was able to get a copy so I can read it to you. You know where I found this copy of this book at? In one of my little neighborhood free library boxes. Have you ever seen that? Somebody's got a little box in their front lawn and they just put books in them, and people can come take books if they want to get one of those books, and they can leave books if they're done reading books. They're very, very cool. If you have one in your or in your neighborhood, you should go to it. If you don't, why don't you make one yourself? You just need to make a nice big wooden box. Usually you see them on like a little post, like a mailbox, but you don't have to. It's free books for everybody, and maybe some new books for you. Well, this is definitely a new book for me, so I'm very excited we get to read it together. Thank you so very much, Haley, for recommending it. I know it's one of your favorites, and who knows, maybe it'll be one of everybody else's too. Let's find out. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, as told to John Scieszka, illustrated by Lane Smith. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolfe. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. It's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So, I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, "Little pig, are you in?" No answer. I was about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed. And I snuffed. And I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And you know what? that whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. So, it seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw. So I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And you're not gonna believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Mm-hmm. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing I could do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick door. No answer. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" And you know what that rude little porker answered? "Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again." Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear old sweet granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed once again. Achoo! And then the little pig called out, "And your old granny can sit on a pin." Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down the pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner, and they figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and then they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar? The end. Well, guys, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the bad wolf was a big bad wolf? Or was he just a nice wolf who had a pretty bad cold? I don't know. What I do know is that this book goes to show there's two sides to every story. So if you hear a story about somebody and it sounds like they're not very nice, you might want to ask somebody else and see if maybe there's another story. Maybe you need to hear their side of the story. I liked that side of the story. I thought that story was a whole lot of fun. Whether he's a big bad wolf or a big good wolf, he sure knows how to tell a good story, don't you think? I'm so very, very happy we got to read this book today. Thank you, Haley. Haley, you are awesome. And I mean that 1,000%. You're so great. Thank you so much for recommending this book. Everybody, thanks so much for joining me here on Storytime with Mr. Michael so we could read it together. And what's your favorite book, huh? I want to know. I want to read it next time, if I can, on Storytime with Mr. Michael. So comment down below so I can know what it is. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time. And don't forget, if you have a cold, cover your mouth when you sneeze. Bye-bye.